Babae, adtoy ti anak mo, anak, adtoy ti inam. Ito po ang pang-apat na huling salita ng ating Panginoong Hesukristo. Woman, there is your son. Son, there is your mother. Para sa akin po, ito ay isang expression of vulnerability. Matutunan natin, ang maaari nating matutunan sa fourth last word of Jesus. Woman, behold your son. Son, behold your mother. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng vulnerability? Ang vulnerability ay importante para sa isang relationship at ang relasyon ng ating Panginoong Hesukristo at ang kanyang nanay at ang kanyang disciple na si Saint John. No? Ang importante dyan ay to communicate your feelings without blaming or judging each other. Sabihin mo kung anong nararamdaman mo na hindi ka nagbe-blame o nanguhusga sa iba. Ang ating Panginoong Hesukristo, He communicated His feelings to His mother. Mother, a woman, behold your son. Ibig sabihin, Nay, andyan ang anak mo. Andyan ang anak mong mag-aalaga sa'yo. Anak, andyan ang nanay ninyo, si Mama Mary na mag-aalaga sa inyo. Ito ay isang vulnerability, isang susi para sa better relationships. Read through this list and tell me if any of it applies to you. You consistently fall into boring conversation topics because they're safe and shallow, and you don't have to risk offending or inciting anyone with them. Ikaw ba ay lagi kang nasa isang boring conversation, safe ito, kahit mababaw, at hindi ka nagre-risk na ayaw mong manakit sa iba, kaya tinotolerate mo lang? You're stuck in a job or lifestyle you don't truly enjoy because other people always told you that it was a good idea and you don't want to upset or disappoint others. Ikaw ba ay may isang trabaho o isang lifestyle na hindi ka naman nag-enjoy? Kasi ang ibang tao, laging sinasabihan ka na yan ay magandang idea at ayaw mong mag-upset, ayaw mong magalit sila or ma-disappoint sila sa iyo. You haven't exercised or groomed yourself to the extent that you could because you didn't want to stand out too much. Ayaw mo masyadong ikaw ay mapansin dahil ginugroom mo ng mabuti ang iyong sarili. Or dressing extremely well makes you feel uncomfortable. Para bang uncomfortable ka dahil ikaw ay nananamit ng mabuti. Or smiling at strangers makes you feel creepy. Ikaw ay nag-i-smile, so nakangiti sa mga hindi mo kilala. All of these are symptoms of a root problem kung lahat yan ay check. An inability to make yourself vulnerable. Many of us weren't taught how to express our emotions freely. Hindi tayo naturuan paano natin mini-manifest ang ating mga emosyon. For example, how do you feel today? Ikaw ba ay masaya, malungkot, galit? Ikaw ba ay nagwo-worry? Ikaw ba ay nahihiya? Ikaw ba excited? Ikaw ba ay surprised, silly, or embarrassed? So napaka-importante na malaman mo kung ano nararamdaman mo. At hindi tayo natuturuan paano natin express ang mga ating mga emosyon freely. My entire young life, I was terrified of anyone not liking me. Gusto ko noon na lagi akong gustuhin ng iba. The mere thought of someone hating me, girl or guy, will literally keep me up at night. As a result, every aspect of my life revolved around people pleasing, hiding my faults, covering my tracks, blaming others. Parang ikaw ay isang people pleaser. Connecting with others in this way by being vulnerable, as opposed to overcompensating and trying to get everyone to like you, will result in some of the best interactions and relationships of your life. Pero ngayon tanungin natin, ano bang ibig sabihin ng vulnerability? Vulnerability is consciously choosing to not hide your emotions or desires from others. Ikaw ay conscious at pinipili mo na hindi mo itatago ang emosyon mo at iyong mga desires from others. That's it. You just freely express your thoughts, feelings, desires, and opinions regardless of what others might think of you. Yan ang problema kung minsan lagi nating iniisip ko ano ang sinasabi ng iba. It can mean putting yourself in a position where you can be rejected, saying a joke that might not be funny, asserting an opinion that may offend others, joining a table of people you don't know. But the key to true vulnerability is that you are willing to accept the consequences no matter what. Hindi lang na freely na in-express mo ang iyong mga feelings, emotions, thoughts, and opinions, pero ikaw rin ay willing na tanggapin ang konsekwensya ng iyong pagiging vulnerable, no matter what. You will offend some people. You will turn some people off. You might lose a friend. But vulnerability is the path to true human connection. As Robert Glover said in No More Mr. Nice Guy, humans are attracted to each other's rough edges. Show your rough edges, show your weaknesses, show who you really are. Stop trying to be perfect because nobody is perfect. Express your true self and share yourself without inhibition. Take the rejections and lumps and move on because you're the bigger, stronger person. Ways to be more vulnerable. No? Gusto ko maging vulnerable, Father, tulad ni Jesus, by telling his mother, no, woman, behold your son, son, behold your mother. First way to be more vulnerable is admit you are terrible at something. Admit that we have weaknesses, no, may mga kahinaan tayo. Think about it. If someone is obviously bad at something, whether it's their free throw, shooting, or singing, there's probably nothing more embarrassing or awkward than when they openly brag about how good they are at it. For example, no, sabi mo napagaling ka mag-free throw, pero ng mga dying seconds, hindi mo na-shoot ang mga free throw mo. O yung pagkanta, ikaw naman ay bangaw. No? On the other hand, when someone openly admits they are terrible at something, you'll probably end up respecting them more for it, as long as they are not too desperate about it, of course. If you're not good at connecting with people at home and you think it's affecting your school performance or your job, tell some of your family members you're having a hard time and see if they have any advice for you. The point is that you're not trying to be something that you're not. You accept who you are, faults and all. People will see this as incredibly confident behavior and respond in kind. So ang una is admit that we are weak in some things. Pangalawa, take responsibility instead of blaming others. No? Kung may pagkakamali, be responsible, no? To take the blame and not to blame others. We all know someone who always seems to blame someone else or everyone else for their problems. The student who constantly falls short of his studies and blames the pandemic, or the teacher, or basically anything but their incompetence. Just admit when you need help with something and find someone who can help you get better. Isa po sa kahinaan ko ay finances, no? Personal finances. That's why I'm now reading some books to improve my personal finances, at ito rin ay ni-apply ko sa parish and also in the school. Ito, yan ang maganda sa vulnerability kasi I'm doing something for my weaknesses. The woman who blames all men, not just one man, but all men for her terrible love life. As a general rule, if you're trying to figure out if it's between half of the population all having the exact same problem, or if it's perhaps just you, well, I have some bad news. I did the math and it's extremely likely that it's you. So start here. Kuminsan ng problema ay hindi sila. Oh, party to be blamed is also ourselves. The reason taking responsibility for your problems is so powerful is because it puts you in control of the source of the solution. Pinag-aralan natin yung hope sa pangalawang elemento ng hope is you must be in control of something. At ang vulnerability helps you to be in control of the solution because you are taking responsibility of the problem. When you blame others, you're handling over control to everyone and everything around you. And spoiler alert, you cannot control everyone and everything around you. Wala kang control sa iba. Wala kang control sa pandemic. Ang pwede mong makontrol ay ang sarili mo. You may not be to blame for your current messy situation, of course, but stepping up and saying that you're going to take care of it is a powerful move. I will do something. It's a shining example of vulnerability because you're saying, I have a problem, I'm not perfect, but that's okay. I can deal with it and I will deal with it. Ang una, accept that we are terrible at something. Second, accepting the responsibility and don't blame others. At pangatlo, tell someone they're being hurtful or insensitive. Calling them out when they truly cross the line makes you vulnerable. You're making your feelings and opinion about that other person known. This is risky. Things could escalate. Some will take it more personally than others, and some people might be annoyed that you're rocking the boat or whatever. But if you know that you stand for and you stand up for it, that's that's powerful form of vulnerability. Note, however, that there's a difference between calling someone out for being cruel or harmful and calling someone out because you disagree with them. The latter is wrong and makes things worse than not better. Pag sinabi mong, don't cross my boundary, that's enough, tama na yan. Sumosobra ka na dahil, siya ay harmful, siya ay cruel, pero wag mong sabihin na yon dahil nagdi-disagree ka lang sa opinion niya. Pang-apat, tell someone you appreciate, admire, respect, love them. This goes for simply telling another person you think they are cute, for letting your friend know you really admire who they are as a person, for expressing respect and love to your parents, and yes, even confessing your undying, never-ending love for someone. All of this require you to be vulnerable because you never really know exactly how someone else feels about you, which could mean their feelings might not match yours, which could create an imbalance in the relationship, which could change the dynamics of the relationship, and on and on and on. So yan ang apat, how to be vulnerable. First, admit that you have weaknesses. Second, be responsible and not blame others. Third, manifest to others that they are hurtful and insensitive. And also pang-apat is admire freely, no? Thank, no, others because of the good things they are doing. What vulnerability is not? The confusion manifests itself in one of two forms, first, using vulnerability as another tactic to get people to like you, find you attractive, give you money, etc., or using emotional vomit as a way to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is not a tactic. A very common problem people run into is that they see vulnerability as another tactic they can use on other people to get them to view them in a certain way. They think, oh, okay, Father says I just need to tell someone some stuff I don't normally tell people, and then they'll like me, give me a raise. If you're telling someone about how you felt when your father died, or your strained relationship with your dad, or how you really bonded with your friend when you went to Santa Ana together, but you're doing it all just to get them to like you more, well, that's not vulnerability, it's manipulation. The problem here is that it's not genuine, and therefore it's not vulnerable. Not only are you continuing to be fake and inauthentic, but you're now pursuing unworthily some of your most cherished life memories to try to get someone to like you. Genuine vulnerability is not about what you do, it's all about why you're doing it. It's the intention behind your behavior that makes it truly vulnerable or not. Ito ang mga checklist. Are you making a joke because you think it's funny? That's being vulnerable. Or because you want other people to laugh and think you're funny? That's being needy. Ang opposite ng vulnerability ay neediness. No? Nagpapatawa ka ba dahil para isipin nilang nakakatawa ka? O nagpapatawa ka dahil ito ay nakakatawa? Are you telling someone you're attracted to about your hobbies to simply share yourself with them? That's being vulnerable. Or are you doing it to show them your sensitive side? That's being manipulative. Are you starting your own business because you're sick of your day job and you found something you really want to try out? That's being vulnerable. Or because you read a book that told you the only way to be successful is to own a business and you want to impress people? The goal of real vulnerability is not to look more vulnerable. It's simply to express yourself as genuinely as possible. Emotional vomit and vulnerability. Emotional vomit is when you suddenly unload an appropriate amount of emotions and personal history onto a conversation using the utter horror of the person listening. Yan ang emotional vomit. Emotional vomit is difficult because on the one hand, it is genuinely vulnerable. No? Sinasabi mo lahat. Open book ka. But on the other hand, it's repellent and unattractive. In effect, you're being open and authentic about how needy and pathetic you are. And whether hidden or apparent, neediness is never attractive. Para bang sinasabi mo, no? Hindi ko na kayang mabuhay, na wala siya, no? Totoo naman yun, no? Pero yan ay hindi vulnerability. Yan ay isang expression of neediness or emotional vomit. 5 signs of neediness: codependency. First, constant need for reassurance that you're liked and loved. Second, high demand for attention. Third, sacrificing one's identity. Fourth, failure to take responsibility for one's own emotions. And fifth, discomfort in being alone. The difficulty with emotional vomit is that if you're harboring a lot of neediness, then it needs to come out somehow, in some way, for you to ever resolve it. The mistake people make with emotional vomit is that they expect the simple act of vomiting it out suddenly fix their issues. No. But the point of emotional vomit is to make you aware of your issues so you can fix them. For example, yun nga, no? Sinasabi mo na gusto mo na magpakamatay, iniwan ka. Oh, Yun naman talagang nararamdaman mo, akala mo yun ay vulnerability, pero ang vulnerability, yung sinabi ko ng una, ganun nga, pero anong gagawin mo? Paano mo fix ang iyong issue? The emotional vomit gave me the awareness to do my healing, but it wasn't the healing by itself. Eventually, you have to become accountable for your own thoughts and feelings and work them out. If not, then you're just going to continue to be angry and frustrated, turning off everyone you come across. Power in vulnerability. Bryn Brown talks about this in her book Daring Greatly. A person who can make themselves vulnerable, exposing their weaknesses without any regard to what others will think, is saying to the world, I don't care what you think of me. This is who I am, and I refuse to be anyone else. In order to become more resilient, more formidable, you must first bear your flaws and weaknesses for the world to see. Ito ako with my strengths and weaknesses. In doing so, they lose their power over you, allowing you to live your life with more honesty and intention. Opening oneself up to vulnerability, training oneself to become comfortable with your emotions, with your faults, and expressing oneself without inhibitions doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, a grueling one at times. But I can assure you, if you put in the work, if you have the difficult conversations, if you express yourself honestly, even when it's risky to do so, if you tell the world this is who I am and I refuse to be anything else, you'll find new depth in your relationships, all of your relationships. So, ang sinabi ng ating Panginoon, no? Woman, behold your son. Son, behold your mother. Yan na isang, no? Kita natin ang relationship ni Jesus sa kanyang nanay, si Mama Mary, at sa kanyang beloved disciple, na si Saint John, the Evangelist. At ang nangyari dyan ay isang vulnerability. Jesus freely manifests his thoughts, his feelings, emotions, his opinions to his mother and to his beloved disciple John, and accepted the consequences of expressing their feelings, emotions, thoughts, and opinions. No? No? Yan ang kanyang, no? Sabi niya, no? Nanay, andyan ang iyong si Saint John, anak mo, na mag-alaga sa iyo. Saint John, andyan ang nanay ninyo, titingin sa inyo. This is the power of vulnerability. And Jesus, kahit Diyos siya, tao rin siya, at yun pinapakita niya sa atin ang ating vulnerability. Because as a human person, we are vulnerable. So thank you very much. This is again Father Christian Jesse, much just sleeping. So you can contact me with my number and with my email. And these reflections were inspired by markmanson.net. So see you with the next last word of our Lord Jesus Christ.